So the Durban Chamber of Commerce right now has just over 3,000 members.
Wow.
These are formal businesses, and then we've got about 64,000 informal businesses.
Wow.
That we're also looking after, that we support. So this year we'll be turning 168 years old.
Wow.
We are the second oldest chamber in Southern Africa. So the oldest one is Cape Town. I think they're about between 10 and 15 years older than us.
Okay.
And then we were born, but we are the largest metropolitan chamber in Southern Africa. Our core mandate as a chamber is to be the voice of business.
When I look at you as a CEO of an organization like the Durban Chamber, I think it would open a lot of doors for women, aspiring women in business, and you'd be a figure of inspiration as well. So is that important for you as well, to empower women, youth, other marginalized groups, in order for the greater majority to find inspiration in that?
Absolutely, without a doubt. I mean, if I don't have a passion in empowering women, especially and young people, then it means I'm not doing my job. So I mean, when you look at the kind of things that we do here at the Durban Chamber in terms of empowerment of young people and women, I mean, we've got forums. We've got the Women in Business Forum. Likewise, with the Youth in Business, we have young people such as myself, running, the Youth in Business Forum. You understand as young people what makes you guys tick, what's important for you guys. But the most important thing, I think, for me is, how do we empower you? What are the kind of programs are we getting in place to make sure that we empower you? I know that the feedback that I'm getting mostly is the biggest thing is always access to finance, access to opportunities. It was very, very tough, but I was very fortunate that I had a mentor, which is what I always recommend to every single young person, whether it's from a career or business point of view. So having a mentor is so important, because when you're faced with various challenges, it's always very important to go back to somebody who will be as objective as possible and give you the right objective advice, so that you can then be able to make the right decisions.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in again on our second episode. Today I have a very special guest, CEO of the Durban Chamber of Commerce, Palesa Phili, one of my mentors, and I like to call her my second mom. She's my business mom. So, Palesa, thank you very much for coming on today.
Thank you very much, Minnie and team. Thank you for inviting me. I must say, I'm very excited to be seeing a production run by young people. So I'm very inspired and very excited. And I'm hoping that all of you guys are in business, and I hope to see you guys thrive in future.
Thank you very much for the kind words. So I'm just going to start by calling on to your background. I'd just like you to make us understand a little bit more of who you are, where you come from, and how you got to here as being the CEO of Durban Chamber of Commerce.
So my journey is very long, right? I was born, my kids like to say I was born in AD. I grew up in Gauteng, and of course, when it comes to my educational background, so I studied business information systems, and then from there I did an advanced diploma in business management, and then I did an MBA, Masters in Business Administration. I started off in the ICT world. So I mean, my first job was working for a technology company called Epsilon Technologies. I think Epsilon has now transitioned to be called First Technologies. So it used to be the first distributor of IBM for IBM products. So my first job, of course, was to assemble PCs, believe it or not, load software, do troubleshootings, and in you guys' terms, the old, I don't know how the motherboards look now, and the CPUs and stuff, but we had the old traditional ones. That was a pin grid array, that we had to put it in, troubleshoot and make sure that it's working. and then of course get the salespeople then now to sell those PCs and then resell them. They would sell them to resellers who would actually now sell them to the end customers. So that was my first job, and then of course I grew into the ICT space. I've worked for various companies, across the board. I mean, I've worked for Intel. I've worked for IBM itself. I worked for Dell Computers. I even worked for EMC, and most recently, from a technology point of view, I worked for Vodacom, and I also worked for MTN. So my journey in terms of my work experience has always been in the ICT space. Up until then, of course, I came to join the Durban Chamber. So the Durban Chamber of Commerce and Industry is the first non-profit company that I'm working for. But I must say I'm loving every minute of it. Because deep down, I always knew that I need to do something more meaningful. I mean, when people come and ask me what do I do, I say I'm a philanthropist. Because that's what I'm passionate about. What is it that we can build to help others, to improve the lives of other people? So that's what I'm passionate about, and that's what I'm doing today. So I ended up on this journey being the CEO of the Durban Chamber, coming from MTN, where I was the regional head for MTN business here in KZN. And I was headhunted into this role, and I haven't looked back since.
Wow. So I just want to touch a little bit on your journey starting in the ICT space. A few years ago, even I'd say now, it's a space where it might be considered a little bit difficult for women to break into that space. How was your experience as a woman going into the ICT space, which was a male-dominated space? Can you just walk us through that a little bit?
Look, it wasn't easy. You can imagine back in the days, the AD days that you guys refer to in terms of, just before you guys were born. It was very, very challenging, very male dominated, and to make it even worse, coming in as a black woman was not easy. I remember my first management role where I was working at Hewlett Packard, or I didn't mention Hewlett Packard as one of the companies I worked for. When I was working at Hewlett Packard, what happened was that I was a manager for the first time, and I was managing a technical team of old guys that were in their 50s. I mean, then I was in my early 20s, and I thought, oh my God. So you can imagine coming in, managing people that are twice your age. You're coming in as a black woman. What do you do and how do you handle it? So it was very, very tough. But I was very fortunate that I had a mentor, which is what I always recommend to every single young person, whether it's from a career or business point of view. The importance of having a mentor is so important, because when you're faced with various challenges, it's always very important to go back to somebody who will be as objective as possible and give you the right objective advice, so that you can then be able to make the right decisions to move on. So it was very, very challenging, coming into that space, but I was able to go through it because of the guidance that I was having through my mentors that helped me grow in that industry.
Wow. So I'm sure as well something as close in your heart is empowering women, even that work below you and under you. Because when I look at you as a CEO of an organization like the Durban Chamber, I think it would open a lot of doors for women, aspiring women in business, and it'd be a figure of inspiration as well. So is that important for you as well, to empower women, youth, other marginalized groups, in order for the greater majority to find inspiration in that?
Absolutely, without a doubt. I mean, if I don't have a passion in empowering women, especially, and young people, then it means I'm not doing my job. So I mean, when you look at the kind of things that we do here at the Durban Chamber in terms of empowerment of young people and women, I mean, we've got forums. We've got the Women in Business Forum, where women in business meet. Let's find opportunities for them, share opportunities with them in those specific industries that are able to explore those kind of opportunities. Likewise, with the youth in business, we have young people such as yourself, running the Youth in Business Forum. you understand as young people what makes you guys tick, what's important for you guys. So always very, very good to have people that are in those industries, especially the marginalized groups. But the most important thing I think for me is, how do we empower you? What are the kind of programs do we, are we getting in place to make sure that we empower you? I know that, the feedback that I'm getting mostly is the biggest thing is always access to finance, access to opportunities. So we're working on that with my team right now in terms of, the benefits of these marginalized groups, such as the women and youth in business, and hopefully we'll come with something very exciting in the new year.
Okay, so just that we touched on the Durban Chamber, I just want us to go through the history of the Durban Chamber a little bit and how it works. So just give us a brief history of the Durban Chamber, when it was founded, etc., etc.
So the Durban Chamber was founded in 1856. So this year we'll be turning 168 years old. Wow. We are the second oldest chamber in Southern Africa. So the oldest one is Cape Town. I think they're about 15, between 10 and 15 years older than us. Okay. And then we were born, but we're the largest metropolitan chamber in Southern Africa. And our core mandate as a chamber is to be the voice of business. When you look at the South African context, you have got COSATU that talks on behalf of workers. The Durban Chamber is the voice on behalf of business.
Advocates for business.
We advocate for business, and the special focus is really advocacy, making sure that we advocate for a conducive environment for businesses to invest in the city, and also create the much needed jobs for a lot of young people and women, etc. So that is our first priority in terms of what we need to do in terms of advocacy. The second a key priority that we do as a chamber that we're proud of is, we call ourselves the ultimate networking platform. And we provide a lot of networking platforms for our members, and give you an opportunity to meet people that you would not otherwise be able to meet. I mean, if you were to give a call to, I don't know, some C-level person at a major corporate, you will probably most likely not even get access, to even the second in command, of those particular people. But when we have our events here at the Durban Chamber, various forums, even our annual gala dinner, which is coming, you will have access to those people. We can walk over to them and say, this is what we actually got, this is what we are all about, and then get to exchange numbers and have that conversation that you wouldn't have had. The third one is that we also strive to we strive for ourselves. In fact, one of the visions that I have for the Durban Chamber is to really make sure that from an international business point of view and trading, we're able to help develop the market here of you young people, especially, and women-owned businesses and everybody, where we really need to start having products of our own that we manufacture, that we can be able to export to other countries. So, my vision for the chamber would be to get to being, the hub, export hub of the country. We cannot be having the biggest port in the country, and yet our entrepreneurs, our young people, and everybody else are not exporting. So we need to get into a habit of finding things out there that are needed out there in the world, and see how we can export them. Let me just give you an example. For example, China. They've been sitting on my case saying they have got almost like a trade center where they are looking for products, South African products, where they can put there, so that when buyers from China are looking for those particular products, they can then be able to be in contact with those particular buyers directly. So those are the kind of things that we really try to promote, and I really hope that in the near future, in fact, one of the legacies I want to really leave is making sure that we build enough SMMEs to be export ready and start exporting.
One thing as well, I like that you touched on there, is the access to markets that Chamber gives you. And almost the way I view Chamber is a big brother in a sense, because a lot of these C-level people you're talking about, or the decision makers, you don't get through to them on your own accord. You need someone on your behalf who's going to advocate for you, who's going to vouch for you, and say, you know what, this guy is one of my members. I believe in what they're doing. I believe in their product, their business, etc. So I think that's another very valuable thing about Chamber. Is the relationships that you already have in place. So how do you view that what I've touched on as well? How important is that in business in general, to have someone who's going to vouch for you, who's going to be your big brother, get you into those rooms?
It's very important. I mean, these days, not these days, people buy from people, right? So it's about, the relationships that you have with the different people. So, I mean, if, these, big corporates happen to be our members, of course, we've got the very good, close relationships with. So, when we do, introductions of, young people to these businesses, they take you seriously. And we have done a couple of introductions to some of the big corporates of businesses. Some of them have been put into the ESD programs of those particular corporates. So it just shows the importance of having like a big brother, like a Chamber, to be able to introduce you to. In fact, one of the things that we also do for our members is, I'm sure you know that we have little stickers. We even say you can use a Devon Chamber member as your on your card, on your business card, or when you're writing an email.
It's like a marketing tool.
A marketing tool to say that you're a Devon Chamber member. Of course, we've verified you. We know that this is what you're doing, and our job is to make sure that we support you for you to grow your business.
So how many members do we have at the Chamber? Do you know how many members?
So the Devon Chamber of Commerce right now has just over 3,000 members. These are formal businesses, 3,000 formal businesses that constitutes of corporates, medium businesses, as well as small businesses. And then we've got about 64,000 informal businesses that we're also looking after, that we support. So yeah, that's the membership that we're basically looking out for as a chamber.
Okay, so the Chamber's got 3 tiers in terms of the membership packages. Let's walk through them a little bit. There's a presidential one, or there's 4: presidential, silver.
So I wouldn't want us to talk about what we have right now, because we're in the middle of reviewing, and we'll be changing our membership packages. But all I can say to you right now is that we're going to have very inclusive packages that will also make sure that they're affordable, especially for the entry level SMMEs that are coming in on board, and those informal businesses that also just want to have more access to the services that we provide.
Okay, so Palesa, one thing I'd like you to walk us through is the vision you have for Durban as a city. We know we've got our issues as a city, infrastructure, service delivery, etc. But what is the ultimate vision? Where do you see Durban going if all of us can bind together and be united on one goal?
The one thing I always talk to people, I say to them, Durban is actually the most, I know people that get offended from other provinces, but the reality is Durban is the most important city in the whole country. Why? Because we've got the biggest port in the country. And anything coming in and out of the port actually affects the whole economy. In terms of what's happening. So it is very, very important that our infrastructure, from a city point of view, water, sanitation, distribution of electricity, even the roads are good enough to allow trade that we need to be having. So if we can have the infrastructure sorted, from a city and a province point of view, you'll start seeing businesses really investing. I mean, the second issue that we had in terms of challenges, it was, of course, so we had 4 key issues. One is the infrastructure, water, sanitation, distribution of electricity. The second one is safety and security. I mean, given after the unrest that we suffered
in 2021,
2021, it's still very fresh on people's minds in terms of security. But you have seen the kind of amazing work that our SEPS is doing. I mean, General Konazi and his team are doing an exceptional work, job. And I must say, we're also very happy with the partnerships that we have with them. So whenever we know that there's macro threats coming into the province, we partner with them. Make sure that corporates, private security companies are they working with them to make sure that our province is safe. I mean, we just come from now the elections. We're working very closely with them to make sure that our province is safe. And we won't experience such things such as looting. So I mean, and then the third thing is business confidence. The confidence of businesses is very, very important. That businesses are operating in a city where there's proper governance, where issues of corruption, maladministration are dealt with, accordingly, and there's consequence management, so that will all increase the business, confidence if we look at that. And then of course the fourth and last key issue that we would like to see at Durban working is that of tourism. I mean, our tourism used to be, we used to be the tourist hub for locals.
It was the main selling point of Durban.
Absolutely, tourist hub for locals. I mean, it's a drive away from people from Johannesburg and in other inland, provinces who want to come to the sea. Just come to Durban, and we've seen the challenges that we've had. Most recently that when it comes to any holiday season, we don't have much visitors. I mean, right now we've got tourism month, and we're not seeing that buzz, of tourists coming in. We've just come from, another holiday, and hotels were not full. So how do we revitalize tourism and make sure that we bring people back in? So we would like to see a Durban working with all those four areas, very, very clear. Like I said, security, it's getting there. So we're very, very comfortable. It's these other three that I mentioned that need to be addressed, as a matter of urgency, so that we can get where we're going. But in terms of, investments and creation of jobs, it will follow suit. So once there's a conducive environment for business to thrive, you'll see the investment will come in. Once these four key areas have been actually addressed and sorted accordingly. But the coming back again to where I'd like to see the Durban is, like I said earlier on, I really would like to see Durban young people having their own companies. To export their products out of the country. If we can get there, we know that we can actually massively deal with this issue of unemployment and ensure that the economy grows.
Okay, so Ma, I like those 4 points that you're touching on. For our viewers that don't know about the presidential working group that we've recently, started, I think just before the elections, can you walk us through as well the presidential working group? And I think those 4 topics are the main pillars of it, of what we're trying to solve.
Yes, correct. So I think it was in April this year, we met with the president, Cyril Ramaphosa, and we're very concerned with the direction that our city was going, and we said we really need urgent intervention. So the president established a presidential working group, and actually the Durban Chamber and businesses are part of I think 6 of those working groups. There's 8 where the president then said instead of doing it only with business, he will also add civil society and labor, so that it's the whole, everybody feels represented. So the 4 key areas are the ones that I mentioned of water, sanitation, distribution of electricity, security, business confidence, and tourism. And then, of course, roads play a very, very important, the road infrastructure, road and rail infrastructure play a very important role in terms of ensuring that businesses do continue. And there is also a working stream for finance,
Okay.
which touches again back onto governance, which is the business confidence comes in, and then there's a communications one where how do we communicate the message jointly together, in terms of what is happening. So that's what the presidential working group is on. It meets the different working streams meet most of them meet on a weekly basis, others every 2 weeks, others once a month, depending on the issues that are being discussed at that point in time. So the meetings are taking place, and we're really hoping that we'll see change very soon.
Okay. So Ma, the issues that you've touched on in Durban, when I view it, if there's any issue in the organization, it's one of two things, or one of two main things. It's either a finance issue, there's not enough funding and infrastructure in that sense, or it's the people, right? So those are the two capitals in a sense, human capital and monetary capital. So in Durban, what is the issue? Are we don't have the money to solve the issues, or we don't have the right people in the right positions?
Don't make me get controversial, Minnie. I've just come from a weekend where I had an opinion piece in the Sunday Times and was highly critical of the people. So let me not get controversial again. But just coming back to some of the needs is, from an infrastructure point of view, the partnership that we're looking for with government is we're saying, businesses, we've got the upfront capital. So, government would say, we can't do all these, major, infrastructure upgrades. We can do the fixing and whatever.
Yeah.
And we're saying, we've got the money to do serious upgrades.
Or partnering with the private sector.
We want you to partner with us. Give us a model, not the traditional PPP model that takes 10 years to sign, but give us a quick model where we can, be able to partner with you upfront. For example, we've got a huge problem with water. I know that the government is busy building a dam, but it's another 10 years, and we're saying we've got people that can come and build a desalination plant, and within a couple of months can be able to supply the water, and we don't have these crises that we're having across the city. So that's the kind of partnership that we're looking for, to say let us sign a nice proper concession agreements and plans with you, so that we know that the basic things that we're crying about, that we're saying should be fixed, of the water and sanitation, distribution of electricity, are fixed, so that businesses will then be able to invest, and the economy will be able to grow.
Okay. So just a little bit before, you touched on the potential that we have as Durban. We've got the biggest port, etc., and how we can boost investor confidence and attract foreign investment to Durban. I think one major issue that I see that's out of our control is all the extreme weather that we're experiencing. I think that can scare away some investors, or are we struggling with the infrastructure there? Because every year it seems like we're flooding every year. So is that an infrastructure issue, or is that something that's just out of our hands?
It's an infrastructure issue. It's been proven. I don't want to say too much. We know what happened with that bad flood that happened 2 years ago. It was not climate change, it was an infrastructure issue. So, the challenges that we have is infrastructure issues. We need a working stormwater system. And this is one of the areas we said to the municipality, we're prepared to invest in, to make sure that we have a proper stormwater system. How can we partner with you, but then make sure that whatever we invest in, we're also able to get our money out.
Okay. And then sorry, Palesa. So touching on that as well, when you're saying, the July unrest and then all this infrastructure issues that we're having, in your tenure as CEO so far, what would you say has been the toughest challenges you've had to face? Because I'm sure when the July unrest are happening and you've got members calling you and they're worried for the future, they don't know what's happening, I'm sure that has an effect on you as well. So what can you pinpoint as the toughest moment you've had so far as CEO?
Well, I've had 3 tough moments. COVID, it was very, very tough. the Durban Chamber had to go through a very, very difficult point of making a decision to retrench almost half of its staff because because of COVID. We could not afford to keep the staff members, and we had to come up with important plans to say how do we remain sustainable. So that was a tough one, but the most challenging one, the second one that came in, was of course the unrest. I think it was the most challenging, toughest one for me personally, because you can imagine, I had a lot of businesses calling me, now they're here, please call the police. Now, it was a nightmare. And I honestly would not want to, I would not even wish that on my worst enemy, to actually go through being in a position that I was in, where I had to be at the forefront of what's happening and how can I be able to support businesses that were being attacked. Luckily, towards the end of the unrest, we were able to save certain businesses that were being attacked, where then the police became active, and everybody else then started to go and prevent the looting that was going on. But the destruction that was caused into our city was just something that we should never ever allow to happen again, because unfortunately, the destruction meant that people ended up not having food, in their own households. Basic human rights of people, were literally, infringed. People's basic human rights were infringed upon, by the people that did the looting. Because you would go, say for example, you want some bread, you've got nothing to eat in the house.
Yeah.
You go to the shop and there's nothing, or the shop is closed. So how is that going to help you? You've got the money, but you can't buy. It was like the middle of a war zone, which was absolutely, it was a terrible nightmare that we really, really wanted to wake up from. So it was a tough one. And then of course the floods came. Yeah, the floods were not as hectic as what happened with the
unrest. And the tornadoes as well, just not so long ago.
And the tornadoes not so long ago. But the unrest was the worst.
Okay. And then in closing, on a lighter note, I'd like you to walk us through some success stories of the chamber. Maybe a few companies or a company that you can remember from when you started as CEO and to now. I'm sure it's very inspirational, and you get a sense of fulfillment to see someone go from A to B. So can you tell us about maybe a few companies or companies you can tell us about?
Maybe I'll share with you one company that even yesterday, 2 days ago, I was sitting with another CEO, the CEO of Trade and Investment KZN, to be specific, when I was talking about this particular company. This gentleman, I met with him when I joined the chamber, and he was part of Amatela Ngokubona.
Oh yeah.
And I remember when I sat with these guys, and all of them, I said to them, I said, guys, this is not how you do business. You need to professionalize yourselves. And look for other opportunities outside of construction. Let's see how we can help you, and to have access to these opportunities. And a couple of them actually have changed. Actually, majority of them, all of them, let me say, that I met with them have changed, and they've got proper legit running companies that are outside of construction. But the one specific one that really stays very close to my heart is a gentleman called Sfiso, who decided to go and build a factory to make shoes, school shoes.
Wow.
I think the company name is called Itatulo.
Okay.
And Sfiso's company manufactures the shoes, and I was saying to the CEO of TIKZ, and I said, this is the guy that we need to help promote. He's got beautiful leather shoes, and
he's taking business away from China as well, and does that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we need to support him, one, for local, and then number two, make sure that even from an export point of view, we support him, because he had an opportunity to go and sell his shoes into Saudi Arabia. Wow. So I was saying to him, we need to give these are the kind of SMMEs we need to give that particular support.
Yeah.
Looking from where he started to where he is today, it really warms up my heart, and I'm very proud of where he is today. So my job and the CEO of TIKZN is to make sure that he becomes extremely successful, and his business grows, and he hires thousands of unemployed people, unemployed young people, and his business becomes a success, and he leaves a good legacy. So it's those kind of heartwarming particular stories that really should be as a motivation for everybody out there to realize that the sky is the limit. Anything, no business idea is a stupid one. Come up with something, but have a tangible product. When you have a tangible product to sell, to the next person, then anything is possible, and we're able to facilitate those kind of, and try and facilitate and open doors for you as the Durban Chamber, for your company to succeed.
I think as well, just close on this, the way we can tackle unemployment and all the issues of inequality, etc., that we have in South Africa, I think is really focusing on the SMME sector and youth in business as well. I think if you can, as a youth or SMME, say you're going to employ 5 people, look at all the snowball effects of all the people you're going to be supporting. Of course, SMMEs are the largest employers in the country. So I think if we can shift the focus into there and support them as much as we can in our positions, I think we can make a big difference.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's my serious passion. Like I was saying to you, these are the groups that we really need to make sure that we educate them, give them the tools to say this is what is there. And I mean, South Africans are very, very creative people. I mean, when you listen to some of the young people out there, they've got all these nice concepts, these nice ideas. How do we help them to get, to become practical, and make sure that we build up on that and get their companies become successful? But again, if you have a proper tangible product to sell, it becomes an easier one. I'm not looking down on anything else, that is out there, but that is what can also help us in terms of improving our exports into the bigger world out there.
Thank you very much, CEO, for your time.
Thank you, and thank you for your listeners.